A lot of men don't really enjoy retirement. They lose themselves in it. You think retirement is the reward for working your whole life, but a lot of men quietly fall apart when they get there. It's not because they run out of money, it's because nobody teaches them how to let go of being needed. So the real question is this: when it's your turn, will you be ready? Today we're talking to Michael K. about what it takes for men to let go of their work life as they transition into retirement.
The path is long, the map is worn, a little cluttered since you were born. The middle chapters feel unclear. Don't worry, friend, no need to fear. Oh!
Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Todd. It's an honor and a joy to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us, man. This topic is huge because there are a lot of guys out there. I've seen it with so many men just unable to just unplug and transition over into retirement. So I saw you out there. I read your story and I thought, man, I just love to talk to this guy. So yeah, thanks so much, man.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks.
Yeah. So for the audience, let me start with a quick intro. I'll read a quick bio on Michael and then we'll just get right into his story. Okay. So Michael K. was a licensed certified public accountant who then built a fee-only registered investment advisory firm. Now, he eventually transitioned into financial life planning, and that pretty much just changed his life, his business, and his relationship with clients. And over the course of his career, he's written 2 books on financial life planning, and he's done countless articles for business publications. He's also a public speaker, and he's addressed a lot of professional and consumer audiences. And then finally, he helps men transition into meaningful lives after their careers are over. Now, that's a brief intro, and we're going to dig into Michael's story. So right into the questions, Michael. Now, you spent decades building your business. How did you come to realize that you can't keep doing it forever?
I certainly could have continued, but what I came to realize is that the things that I wanted that were important to me, I'd accomplished. And so I felt like I'd climbed the mountain as high as I wanted it to go. And it was time to kind of turn over the reins to the next generation, which I had a younger partner who is brilliant, and we were certainly in alignment with our thinking and philosophy, and certainly he was able. And I said, okay, well, now I can, kind of check the box and say, okay, what's next for me? So it was, could I have continued doing it? Sure. But I felt like I had done everything I really needed to do. So it was like, what's the next hill to climb?
Now, can you tell that story about how you transitioned into retirement? It was not an easy path, was it?
Well, it started off really easy. And to be honest, I mean, I worked really diligently to make sure that I was checking off all the boxes. So for example, I knew that my financial life was fine. I had spent a good amount of time to think about what are the things that would be interesting, fun. What's the container that was appropriate for me? What were the key things that I needed to be aware of? And a lot of it was certainly in alignment with the work that I was doing as a financial life planner, talking about, what are some of the aspects of life, like, other than money is, our intellectual pursuits, our health, family, spiritual life, community, social engagement, things like that. And so I felt like I had really spent a lot of time thinking about other things. What I did find was that about almost 6 months into retirement, I hit the wall. And I became really, I guess depressed is the right word for it. And I didn't know why. And I really didn't understand what was going on. I just knew that it was not a good place. And I really and I continued to write about it. As I was, kind of back up half a step, as I was creating my next step, I had created this community for men transitioning to life after a career called Chapter X. And I was writing blog pieces. At that time, I was writing them, I think, 5 days a week. and doing a monthly Zoom meeting, and I think I had just started the podcast. And I started to write. And when I went into this depression, I wrote about it, how I was feeling. And I shared that with the community. And I got back a lot of really good support. And I spoke to my wife, my family. I spoke with a therapist about it. And what I came to realize after just spending some time in contemplation, because that's one of the things we don't do. We don't do a really good job of being good contemplators, because we're doing machines. My life, in terms of being productive, being achieving, started when I was 12 years old. Literally started working when I was 12 and never stopped. There wasn't a gap year in college. There wasn't a spring break. There wasn't if I changed jobs in the accounting profession, there wasn't taking 2 weeks off between or traveling the world or whatever. None of that. I just worked, put my head down, whatever I needed to do to make a living, to support my family, to build my businesses. That's all I did. And what I didn't realize is I never didn't grieve it. I didn't mourn it. I didn't acknowledge it, that this huge gap in my life from age 12 to age 68 was this nonstop achieve. And once I recognized that and realized what it was that I hadn't taken the time to think about and be with, once I was able to do that, the page turned, and I was able to really focus on the joy.
That's deep. And it's so true, because incidentally, I started working when I was 12 as well. I grew up in a small town in Georgia, and I worked at this small bait and tackle shop near my house. And it was a tough job, man. We worked pretty long hours on the weekends. And so I just have not stopped working since that time. So I relate to this, because I realized that at some point I'm going to have to let go and turn that page like you're talking about. So that's why, hearing your story, I'm hugely interested in that. So it's very necessary. But we kind of look at retirement as freedom. But what things got harder for you after you handed things over? I think you've already alluded to those, but can you name like one or two things that were the absolute hardest things when you handed things over?
Going from a structured day to completely unstructured was a little mind-boggling. Okay, that was one thing. Was that okay? Now I knew before I handed over the keys, I knew what I was doing basically from the minute I got up in the morning to the time that I went to bed at night. I knew what work I needed to do, who I needed to talk to, which of my colleagues I needed to sit with, what clients I had to speak with or meet with. I knew what I was going to do. Now, when you no longer have that responsibility or that part of your life, then the thinking is okay, well, do I just wake up when I want to wake up, and am I going to sleep till noon? I don't think I've slept till noon since I was in high school. But it's like, how do I build a structure? Because we do need structure. Right. Everyone, I have 3 granddaughters, and it's like they need a structure in their life. Otherwise, they're completely, it's all bets are off. So it's like we need a structure in our life as well. We need to know that, okay, well, when am I exercising? When am I doing, the different aspects of the things that I do now, which are really varied. Whether I'm, doing a podcast, whether I'm doing some writing, some blog pieces for Chapter X, the part of my life that encompasses music or volunteering or some of the other things that I do, how does that fit in my life? And how do I know, like, I don't need to be busy from 8 in the morning till 8 at night. I don't want to be busy from 8 in the morning to 8 at night. I want to be able to adjust and expand and contract as my energy dictates, and as I'm feeling what I need to do. I don't want to feel that I am. If I have a high energy day, great. I am on fire. If I have a low energy day, I'm going to honor that and not say, okay, well, I need to go, you'll excuse the expression, balls to the wall and exhaust myself. For what reason? Right. So there's got to be a level of common sense involved in how you structure yourself. So that I think that was one of the big things, is to just create that structure. The other thing is what are the boundaries for our decision making? And I really admit that I am the ultimate, at least in my work career, I was the ultimate yes man. If my wife, my kids, my colleagues, my partner, my clients, my friend, if they wanted something, the answer was yes. And I will do what I need to do to get it done for you. And that was it. It was yes. I hated saying no. But what I learned I needed to do in this stage of my life was to say no to certain things and certain relationships that weren't bringing me joy. And joy became really one of the watchwords for my life in this chapter. If it's not joyful, I'm not doing it. If it doesn't bring me that level of joy that I'm doing, of what I'm doing, or the people that I'm spending time with, I'm not going to spend time with people who suck the life out of me. I don't care whether I did for the last 40 years of my life and dealt with it. I'm not doing it anymore. The cost is too high. And the realization, Todd, that we don't know how long we have to go in our runway. Our runway is not necessarily very long. It could be, but how much of a healthy life do we have where we can do the things that we want to do and that are important to us? And as I've spoken to so many men, the biggest challenge, one of the biggest challenges is health. Once that turns, all bets are off.
Yeah. Once you have a health problem, you only have one problem in life.
Yeah, for absolutely. And so all the things that you've thought about, wanted to do, excited about, it's all gone.
That's out the door. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, okay, well, how do I curate a life that's based on staying healthy as long as I can, living as joyfully as I can, living within the boundaries of yes and no, and a structure that supports me in the things that are interesting to me and meaningful.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a big turn for men, especially, but just in general, working professionals, we don't think in terms of, does this bring me joy? We're thinking, I got to get this done. I'm making money. I've got to do this. I've got to close this deal. I've got to do that. And it's all focused on goals and hitting your marks, hitting that number for retirement and things like that. But
right. One of the guests I had on my podcast, he talked about the 4 PRs, procreate, produce, provide, and protect. Okay. So if we think about that in terms of our life, in our life, providing for our family, we're protecting our family, we're producing, we're doing all these things. And what happens when that changes? What's our reason to go forward? We're going to have no one we don't need to protect anyone. We've already procreated, produced, provided, and protected. Now what? So it's a whole different thing that we need to kind of rejigger in our thinking and kind of reconfigure so that we are looking at things through the right lens.
Yes. Now,
excuse me.
Side note, side question, how did therapy help in this? Was the therapist key in helping you find, okay, you need to stop focusing on work and mission and this and that, and just think about joy? Was the therapist involved in that or no?
Not really. The therapist really came into play when I started to, when I kind of hit that wall.
Yeah.
But I had spent as a financial life planner, so many of our questions with our clients was beyond money. Money was, obviously was a center point, but everything that comes around it is like, why are you working? What's the reason? What are your values? What do you care about? What are you willing to do to live your values?
Yes.
Right?
That's deep. That's
Yeah.
deep. Yes.
And people are like, what am I retiring to instead of what am I retiring from? What's my reason to get up in the morning? Is it strong enough? Who are the people that I love and I care about that I'm willing to, go through the trials and tribulations of owning a business or, getting to the top of the pile or, working in whatever occupation or job that you're in, that you are this focused on, and this becomes such a big part of our life. This is how we spend the vast number of hours of our life, that I'm willing to sacrifice all those things for success or for the people we care about or the things that we care about. So, Walt, I believe very strongly that when things are muddled, you need to be able to help. You need the help of someone to help you find clarity.
Yes.
Right.
100%.
And a good therapist has the ability to kind of push the smoke away, so that you could see what do I need to focus on.
Yep.
So no therapist is going to say, oh, here's your answer. They're going to ask you questions that make you have to think and go deep. So I'm a big fan, and I've worked with therapists in various stages of my life when I felt I couldn't see through the fog. So I am definitely an advocate.
Same. And that's another thing with men. And I had an episode, I had a psychotherapist on, his name is Steve McCready, and just digging into that, because as men, we don't want to ask for help and we don't want to go seek out counseling from someone else.
Hey, well, listen, men don't even want to, thank God for GPS systems. Men would never want to ask for directions. So once you have GPS or Waze or whatever in your car, you don't have to ask for directions anymore.
Right.
So it's the same thing. It's like that feeling of, well, I'm less than if I have to ask for help.
And it's not true.
It's not true.
We need that. And I didn't realize, and I'm ashamed because I didn't realize this until 2017 about therapy. And I, okay, I think let me go check this out, and pulling back the covers on this and looking, and it's not what I thought it was. Men think that it's, you're just sitting down and expressing your feelings to someone. That's part of it, but it's like, no, they're digging into your mind, why we think the way we do, and then helping us make sense of things. So that's, anyways.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that we come to battle with is that, we're taught we're supposed to be the strong, silent, holding everything inside, and we can figure out the answer. We're strong. We don't need anyone. And what you're going to find in retirement is that, boy, is that a mistake.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the biggest mistakes, because the statistics are clear as a bell. Depression and suicide rates for older men is through the roof.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is because they don't have a solid, meaningful social structure.
Yes.
Okay.
Truth.
Right. They don't have someone who is their best friend. It's like, if you ever have a conversation with a bunch of guys, okay, it's either going to talk about sports or it's going to talk about the kids, or but they're not talking about what's really down deep, the issues. When I do my monthly Zoom meetings for Chapter X, I have a rule. I have 3 rules: no sports, no politics, and I don't care what you're drinking. So we're only here to talk about what's going on in your life. Yeah. And we've had men share about. We had one gentleman who talked about his wife was ill. He was supposed to go to some meeting. She said, please, go, it's no problem. He came back and she was going into some kind of anaphylactic shock, and she could have died. She was, they had to rush her to the hospital. And he had these, and he shared with the group his feelings of guilt, his feelings of remorse, his feelings that what would have happened if he didn't get home in time, or what would happen if she died.
Yeah.
And the room of men who are from all over the country just sat there really leaning into the conversation, listening, supporting, and things like that. And that's why I don't invite women into it, because I think that changes the dynamic, is that for men to realize that, you can be in a safe space and speak your heart. Say, one guy who's, who's dealing with some prostate cancer or some other health issues, and he's afraid, and he's able to share it. And you know what? Being supported by other people is really helpful.
Yes. I've seen it. And I've said it multiple times in other episodes, but that's one of the things I took away from the military is we leaned on each other. And when you're deployed forward, you're in not so fun places. If you're not talking to each other and sharing the feelings and what you're going through, you can easily lose it and have mental health issues. So I'll just leave it at that. But
we need the attitude that we're all in this together.
Yeah.
While we might all be exploring different avenues, and we might have different interests, and we might be doing different things, we're all sharing this stage of life together.
Yes.
And if we could do it joyfully and in support of each other, not that we have to have answers for anyone. That's the difference.
Yes.
It's like, I'm not here to fix anybody, right? I'm not going to fix anyone, but I can be here and listen and say, wow, that must be really tough. Or, gee, I'm really sorry you went through that. How are you doing now?
Yeah.
And that's enough.
Right.
But men have this belief that, if someone poses a problem, we have to pose a solution.
Right.
And that is an absolute wrong way to look at things in terms of creating relationships.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And oftentimes just the act of talking about it and voicing them, you're really just processing the thoughts and the emotions. That is enough many times.
Yes, as long as there's someone there to listen and to really help someone feel heard.
Yes.
Yeah.
And having a group of guys that you lean on and you can share those things with, super important. And that's what veteran communities, that's after people get out of the military, that's what they're seeking out. And so that's what these veteran communities provide. So every man needs a group of men that you can lean on. So necessary.
So important.
Yeah. So we've kind of chased a rabbit. So I'll, I appreciate you digging into that with us. So yeah. Now, taking your story and applying it generally to most men, let's talk about why we struggle with retiring. So can you talk about that identity crisis we men face after retiring? Yeah.
That big question. Who am I when I'm no longer my job? Who am I when I'm no longer my title? And, we've spent a lifetime being our job, being our title. We knew who we were. We knew what we were doing. We knew why we were doing it. And when that's swept away, we are now left with this vacuum. And, I pose the question, who were you before? Right? And what it comes down to for so many is like, well, I was curious. I was a learner. I had a family or people that I cared about. I had lots of things or I was in many, many different places in my development of, who I was. But when we're no longer that, we become something else. I remember, I know this is a super silly story, but I remember when I was in elementary school, and the one thing I wanted to be was I wanted to be named as one of the student crossing guards. Like that was like to get that little thing that you wear, and I thought that was the coolest thing of all. Well, I got that, and when I went on to the 7th grade to middle school or junior high school, I was no longer that. But my identity with that badge and that strap and whatever that silly thing was that was my identity. But then that was over. So I became something else.
Right.
Think about when you're in high school, when you're a senior in high school, you rule the school, and then you become a freshman in college and you're the bottom of the pile. So we're constantly changing identities. We're constantly changing the hats we wear and the masks we put on. And so we get to redefine and think about it in terms of something that's interesting or something that's fun or something that's different. I don't need to be, Michael Kay was the the firm founder of this firm, or was this. No, I don't. I did that. That was okay. But now I'm doing this. Okay. And if you wanted to find me or identify me as a grandfather, okay, I'll take that. I'll wear that one. A friend, a volunteer, a writer, whatever, you can put whatever labels you want on me, but I am driven by my values. And one of the things I value is helping people, is doing things that help others. And so how can I do that? What can I do that supports that value? And so I think it's really important for us to think about, to start with our values. Who are we? What do we care so much about? And how do we attach actions to those things? Whatever those things are. I know men who are retired who were they're taking courses with kids who are, 20 years, 19 years old at universities, and they're sitting in taking courses in all kinds of different subjects that are interesting to them. So they went from, executive vice presidents to students. Like, who cares, right?
Right. Yeah, that's liberating, honestly. And it seems like we go through a series of identity crises as men in our lives. I remember high school. I was in sports. I identified as a football player. And that goes away and you feel that sense of grief and loss. And then you go, I'm a college student. Oh, I'm doing this. And we associate what we're doing with who we are. And I think it sounds to me like that's the issue. What we're doing is the person that we are, and we need to think about it differently.
Exactly. So, exactly. I think you're spot on. If we think about, well, what is it that we value? What is it who are we when we strip away all the stuff and all the images and all the ego? Who are we? What's our reason for getting out of bed in the morning?
Right. Yeah. And I confess, when I was working for a big tech company in the past, and my whole identity was wrapped up in that as an engineer. And, tech companies lay people off, and we were having annual layoffs. And every year when it came time for the layoffs, I just kind of fell apart mentally, because my identity was all wrapped up in that position, that job. And I felt as if if I didn't have that job, I was worthless to society, worthless to my wife and kids. And who am I without that? And that's my issue, and I still struggle with that to an extent. And so looking forward to retirement someday, I've got a lot of work to do. So,
but think of it this way, Todd. At this point of your life where you're focused on supporting your family and creating financial security, you're on mission, right? So anything that takes you off mission is a crisis.
Yeah.
Right? And that makes sense. But once you've gone over that bridge where you say, okay, I've now achieved this financial security, I'm okay. Now I can focus on something else. I can look forward to not worrying about staying on mission, other than maybe realigning my mission that's driven by my values.
Yeah.
Instead of the fact that I'm trying to create this security for yourself and your family. So there's a season for everything, right? Right. Yeah. This is a really good example of that, it's like, now's the time that you're focused on that mission.
Right.
And this is the time where I'm focused on a different mission, because I'm in a different place.
Yeah.
So you're in where you're where you should be.
Yeah. A lot of work to do, but I've come a long way, I think. Therapy's helped. So
We're all works in process. You
Yeah.
know, that's the key. And I've said this forever. We're
Mm,
always works in process.
yeah.
We're always hopefully evolving
Mhm.
and changing. And I think one of the big challenges is that this transition into what I call Chapter X is, what are we evolving to, and what do we need
Yeah.
to get rid of, and what do we
Mhm.
need to pick up? Okay,
Mm.
one of the things we need to get rid of is our identity. You know, this identity issue
Mhm.
of, you know, who we are. The other thing that we need to make sure is to recognize that we have pretty much all the tools we need and the
Mm.
skills we need to go into the next chapter successfully. The things that we learn, we've been through so many transitions in our life.
Mm.
Think about it, from the time that we are infants to the present day, how many transitions we've gone through, from being the baby in the crib that couldn't pick up their head, to picking up their head, to crawling, to walking, to being nonverbal, to being verbal, to,
Mhm.
being in preschool, to being graduating, having a PhD or a doctorate or whatever it is. We've gone through all these transitions, to single, to married, to divorced, to children, to, all these, they're all different transitions.
Mhm.
Getting a job, losing a job, creating a job, whatever it is, they're all things where we are in a state of flux.
Yeah.
And change is, for most people, hard.
Yes.
Okay. But what we need to do is we need to sit in that crucible of change, the heat and the fire of it,
Mhm.
and realize
Mhm.
that you can't grow being in your comfort zone.
No.
If we're sitting in kind of like this static whatever, we're not growing, right? And the only way
Mhm.
we're going to, it's like taking cold water and putting it into a kettle and turning on the heat. Okay. You're not going to have a hot cup of coffee until you have that water boiled,
Mm.
right? Or until you're turning up the heat,
Mhm.
and all those water molecules are getting angry, and they're getting all upset, and they're getting
Right.
moved around.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. So we're sitting in the crucible saying, okay, I've done
Mm.
this. I've gone through this before. I've gone through different changes before. I've gone through this change, that change. And I've come out the other end better than before. I
Mm.
got knocked down and I got back up again.
Mhm.
Okay. I got slammed to the ground. I got fired. I got criticized. I lost a job out to somebody else. All these failures, and I've gotten up again.
Mm.
And I'm sure you who've gone through the military, can understand that in a way of, how you went from where you were the first day of basic training to coming out the other side, and the numbers of failures and the numbers of changes that you went through just to get from beginning to the end of that one cycle,
Mhm.
right? Of exhaustion, of, all the other things that they talk about that I have no actual knowledge of, but have, read about or heard about. But, but you did it, right?
Right.
And because of that, you did it, you came out better.
Mm.
And it's the same thing.
Right.
The only difference is we have to shift our thinking to acknowledge that a portion
Mm.
of our life is over.
Mhm.
And who do I want to be in this
Right.
what's important going into this last stage of my life,
Yeah.
for as long as I have it? And the idea of generativity, of being able to give back in some way
Mm.
to help someone else, take the knowledge, the experience, the hard knocks, and pass it on to somebody, or to just do acts of kindness to other people, because during our time of our work, it's
Mm.
competition.
Yep.
Now the competition's over, right?
Mm.
Sorry, we're done competing. We don't have to.
Mhm.
We're not trying to climb a ladder here. Okay, we're
Right.
not trying to reach. There's no. The definition of success in retirement has nothing to do with being the president of retirement. or I'm the CEO of retirement.
Right.
I'm the chairman of the board of retirement. I'm a doctor of retirement. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with defining what you care about and living the fullest life possible.
Right. Now, you mentioned mindset. What are the lies we men tell ourselves to justify hanging on to that job longer than we should?
Oh, I've heard so many things like, "Oh, I still love what I do," and that might or might not be true. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine that if you've been doing something for 40 or 50 years, that you have the same passion for what you're doing now that you had 20, 30, 40 years ago, or that there isn't something out there that potentially has an allure for you. Because I think what happens is that we have in our mindset, that in our minds, that retirement is the endless weekend of nothing. And I think because of that, we don't invest the energy or time to think about how it can be dynamic.
Yeah.
And how it can benefit others.
Yeah. I think a lot of times with anxiety, we look at the future and think bad things.
Yeah.
And we think it's going to be a long weekend, and we don't like weekends because a lot of us face depression with weekends. So
yeah,
because we're not at work and we're not doing our mission, we're not accomplishing anything other than, maybe we're doing chores and stuff around the house. But yeah, we fall into depression. And so we look at retirement like that. And
because we don't know, we can't imagine what it's like. So but if we think, if we kind of flip the script a little bit, if you think about who you were on your first day of work, in your first job, and I don't mean, like 12-year-old job. I mean, as a, post education, you think about, could you really imagine what it would be like to be where you are now? You can't really imagine it. I mean, you say, oh, well, if I had the corner office, my life would be really simple and it would be great. Like people would just be bringing me, cupcakes and right.
It doesn't work that way.
Right. But we can't really imagine it. But because all we know is like this first day of work, like I don't know anything.
Right.
I don't know where the coffee is, let alone, what to do.
Yeah.
So the idea is to just say, okay, how do I imagine? How do I visualize a life that is not built around work? And what are some of the things that might be interesting? And I think for a lot of people, the best way to do that is if they have the ability to, is to scale it. Instead of going from 100% to zero, is to go from work 4 days a week and have 3 days off. Have work 3 days a week, and so start kind of
a sabbatical.
Yeah, if they can do that,
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But thinking about scaling into retirement, but you need to devote time to kind of think about and imagine what are some of the things that might be interesting. I've had people all the time ask me, it's like, well, I don't know what to do. And I like, well, do something. Try it. Try anything. It doesn't matter what it is. Take a class, learn an instrument, learn a language, volunteer, join a club, go for a hike, do something and see if you like it. If you like it, do it again.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, don't do it again. Like I've shared the story when growing up, I was a classically trained trumpet player. And I studied with a teacher who literally broke me to tears every week. I mean, no joke. I mean, I became a really good, he had two students. One was in Juilliard School of Music, and I was 14 years old. And I was 14 years old. And he broke me to tears, but I became a really good player.
Yeah. When
I was around 18 years old or so, I heard a recording of a trumpet player who was my age, who was 18 years old, who happened to be the protege of Dizzy Gillespie. And if there's any jazz fans out there, they know who Dizzy Gillespie is. And I listened to him play, and I said, I'm wasting my time. And I put my horn in the case, and I didn't touch it again.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And literally 50 years later, I was sitting with a friend who is a very well-known musician and music educator. And he said to me, he goes, why don't you think about playing again, but doing it for fun? And I'm like, it never occurred to me that to do it for fun, because it was always like, be the best, be the best, be the best, be the best, be the best.
You turn things into chores.
Right. Well, I grew up in a family of all professional musicians. So, it's like, be the best, be the best, be the best. And so I said, that's an interesting concept. Do it for fun. So I thought about it. I took the trumpet out of the case after 50 years. I started taking lessons again, and I started playing with an adult big band and having a great time.
That's cool.
And then a local community band asked if I would come and play with them. So I went to a rehearsal, didn't love the music. The people weren't very friendly. And I'm saying, well, I'm an introvert. And I'm like, I didn't feel good about it. Well, maybe it's me. So I went to the second rehearsal, felt the exact same way. At the end of the rehearsal, I handed the music folder back to the conductor and said, sorry,
I'm out.
This is not for me. So it's like, but I tried it.
Yeah.
And I think cool. But I think that's the attitude, is like, try it. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, there's something else.
Yeah.
Keep looking around. There's so many things. There's millions of things to experience and experiment with. Just remember, do you remember being young, being a kid and walking in the woods, turning over logs or rocks and seeing stuff and salamanders and fish in the brook and whatever. And it was all fascinating. It was all interesting. It was all like, wow.
Yeah. We had imagination and we could pretend.
Right.
That was fun. Yeah.
And we can recapture that. We can recapture that joy of discovery, that's joy of that wonder of saying, wow, that's really cool. The act of noticing how much in our day is just like, we don't see anything. We just kind of we're on mission. But, like I can go out for a walk and notice, 20 things that I haven't seen before. Yeah. And it's just kind of being in touch with a different part of ourselves.
I think it all just boils down to identity, and it's like an American thing, I believe, where we just identify ourselves with work. But then I've had colleagues over in Europe. They're like, "Hey, I'm taking August off. I'm going to be on holiday," and they're gone for a month. And I think of that, and the thought of being away from work for a month or 2 months or whatever, that scares me, because it's like, I'm going to be out of the game. I'm not going to be performing according to my identity. And I think we could learn something from folks like Europeans who aren't just associating who they are with their jobs. So yeah, I think that's a mindset shift for heading into retirement.
It totally is. And we have to give ourselves permission to think differently, to expand how we see ourselves and the world, and how we see ourselves in the world, right? Because we can be in the box.
Yeah.
Like I have a very dear friend who is a little bit older than I am, and he's an attorney, and he says he loves what he does, and he still works enormous numbers of hours. And when he finally decides to slow down, what's going to be left of him? Because he literally works. He says he aspires to work 5 days a week, and it's not my job to judge him. It's not my job to do anything other than be there as his friend. But I sit and wonder, when he finally does slow down, what's going to be left of him physically, because of the wear and tear. And we all get wear and tear.
Yeah, I've got a friend named Darren who worked in corporate life, and he had a number in mind, and he really planned this out. And he said, okay, cool. When I reach my retirement number, I'm retiring. And he was in his 50s. and he hid his retirement number and he walked away. He retired and he's just really thoroughly enjoying himself. So he was able to, he already had the mindset that, hey, I'm not my job. And he was able to do that. And I had breakfast with him a while back, and it was just refreshing to sit with him and to hear that from him. But at the same time, knowing I'm not in that place mindset wise, I still associate who I am with the work that I do. So I've got a lot of work to do there.
Well, I'll throw this out, and you tell me what you think. I think so much of how we approach this is how we were raised.
Yep.
And what messages that we received.
Yes.
And like my father, may he rest in peace, was born in the Depression, and he was a consummate workaholic. And it would be like, if he would see me as a kid on the couch, he'd say, "Don't you have, isn't there something you can do?"
Yep.
Right. And to this day, if I'm sitting on the couch reading or something, I hear his voice, and I'm like,
guilt.
Yeah, like, isn't there anything that you can get done? Yeah. And I have to well, thank you for your comment. I appreciate it. I'm reading now, and what I need to get done, I will get done, and go away.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it has to do with is recognizing where it comes from, and putting it in that perspective of saying like, okay, this is the voice of my father, or this is the voice of my uncle or my grandfather, whoever it is, and it's not needed now. Okay. I understand their situation. I understand what drove my father, the way he was driven. I understood how I worked my entire life from age 12.
Right.
But I don't have to be that person now.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is, it's that rearing, how we were taught growing up.
Yeah. And
my dad, great, when I first got that job at age 12, he kind of gave me a pep talk when I was going to interview for the job. And he was like, get in there and you do good work, you show value, you do this, it was all about performance because that's what he knew. And so I just took that all through adult life. And so I'm working on that mindset shift. So,
we're as children, we're sponges. We absorb everything, and it goes right into the marrow of our bones. But now we get to a point in our life where we have to say, is this still necessary? Is it still relevant? Right? Do I need this now? If the answer is no, I don't need this anymore, then I need to say thank you, but you're not needed now.
Yeah.
And say, what do I need now? And that's one of the big questions that people need to ask themselves in retirement is, what are the aspects of my life that I need now? I need to curate my health. I need to exercise. I need to eat well. I need to sleep well. I need to, have intellectual stimulation. I need to be with people. I need to do things that bring me joy. I need to, see my family. Whatever those things are that go into the kind of the stew of our happiness, of our joy, are the things that this is what I need now. What I had before, I don't need right now. I don't need anymore. It was good for then, but not for now. Yeah. It's like when you were, 7 and you were using crayons, right? You don't need crayons now. Not that crayons aren't fun, but
right.
You don't need crayons right now. You needed them when you were 7.
I was in the Marines. Now we eat crayons. Okay. That's what we do. It's a military joke. So.
Well, it's interesting. My first job was I worked for a butcher who was a Marine rifle instructor and cook.
Oh wow! Okay,
and he was like a second father to me. I mean, he was like, but everything was precise. Everything had to be perfect, and my job was to clean. I would come back every day 5 days a week after school, every day, and empty the cans and scrub the cases and scrape the floors. But it had to be done to his specification. Yeah. And if it wasn't to his specification, it had to be done over again.
Yeah. Brains
And
do a lot of cleaning, so you're speaking and I'm like, yep.
right. So that mindset of doing things properly and completely
Mhm.
and thoroughly was really helpful for me in my life.
Yeah.
Show up on time,
Hmm.
finish what you start, do what you say you're going to do, finish what you start,
Yeah.
right? And do it
Love it.
perfectly.
Yeah.
And there are no shortcuts.
Yeah. None.
He would share stories with me of being on the as a rifle instructor and being
Mhm.
on the range with whatever I forget what his rank was, but he'd be have guys who were way up there, and he'd be moving them around and this
Yeah.
way and that way, and it's like this is the way you do it. There's
Right.
no BS. There's
Yeah.
no compromise. So
Yeah.
that's how I kind of learned. That was one of my great teachers.
Nice. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about why we struggle with retirement, but so let's talk about how men can prepare themselves. Now, as you're working with a guy, maybe he's 5 years, maybe 15 years away from retirement, what is a very common thing that you have to deal with them? What uncomfortable steps do you typically have to walk them through?
I think it's getting them to think outside of their current situation
Mm-hmm.
is really challenging. And what I'll try and do is take them, if I'm doing some coaching with them, is to take them through some exercises, some visualizations. This is where you are. How does it feel? What are those impressions? What are the things that feel wrong? Or is to understand that this next to prepare for the next chapter of your life. What goes into that? What goes into that stew? What would it look like? Let's visualize what it would look like for you to feel excited, interested, safe, secure, and confident to move forward. And obviously, one of the things is financial security. And it's like, okay, what are you doing about it? What are your choices? What are your resources? What is your lifestyle? What does your lifestyle look like post career? What resources do you have? Do you expect to work part time? What are some of those things? And then let's start lining up some thoughts about some wish lists. What are things that might interest you today? And if you just tell me all you want to do is play golf, I'm going to throw you out.
Yeah.
Because that's just a lack of imagination.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with golf if you're a golfer.
Yeah.
But if that's the end, if they put a period at the end of that sentence,
Yeah.
unless you're on the senior circuit, goodbye. You're not doing your job.
Yeah. I know I have a friend, he was a mentor to me when I was in my 20s. I met him when he was 51 and he sold his business at age 38 and retired. He said, I went fishing for 3 years. He said, I got so miserable. I hated fishing. So, and he ended up taking a job working at Lowe's Home Improvement in the kitchen and bath. And he loved it. And I mean, he's retired. He didn't need money. He needed something to do. He was winning employee of the month all the time. And he was just happy at work. And it was a retail environment and he just loved it. So yeah, we can't just plan to do nothing. So, or just
I was
leisure.
talking to one guy who was a very successful executive, and he got a job working at his gym, like handing towels out. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning, and he loved it. He was there, because he's a very social guy, and seeing all his friends, and and he'd get a chance to chit chat with all these people, and to him it was great fun. It wasn't it was definitely not a financial decision, but so it's like, what can you do that could be fun? Are how do you grab onto curiosity again?
Yeah.
And that feeling, because what happens, Todd, we go from novice to mastery over and over and over in our lives. From the time we're babies, we go from novice to mastery over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But when we get to retirement and we are a novice in retirement, we still think we are in mastery of our work, but the work doesn't exist to be masters over.
Right.
So we need to take that novice mind, the learner's mind, the beginner's mind, to say, well, wow, what are my opportunities?
Yeah.
It's not what did I lose, but what are my opportunities?
Yeah.
You know, how do I take all the skills, knowledge, ability, habits, strengths,
Mm,
and how do I build on that in this next chapter?
right.
You have to have
Curiosity,
yeah,
imagination, going back to what we had as kids, but just
yeah,
being able to have fun and use our imagination and come up with new things.
yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
the one of the biggest problems that men have is when they talk about like purpose
Mm,
is this feeling like if it's not like curing world hunger, it's
mm,
not worthwhile.
mm.
Right? It's like,
Right.
well, if I can't cure cancer, what's the point? All
Yeah.
right. But the reality is that we can find meaning and purpose in the
Mhm.
smallest things because
Yeah.
it's meaningful to us.
Yeah.
Right? I have I have three granddaughters, and two of them live locally. And you know, if I have the opportunity to take the little one to preschool in the morning, it's awesome. We have the best time in the car.
Yeah.
Um, she had no school today. I took her to the gym with me, and it's a
Mm,
little private gym, and she had the best time, and I have had the best time watching her.
mhm.
A little 5-year-old running around, and
Yeah.
like that to me was completely. This was a 5-star day
Nice.
because it's something I value.
Yeah.
Um,
That's cool.
yeah, and it's not complicated, but it's actually really being in that place,
Mm. You're
right? It's
present right there,
being
and you're not thinking
present.
about what do I got to get done next.
It's just
Yeah.
having the joy of being present to watch this little 5-year-old
Yeah.
do a push-up against the box that she's never done before.
That's great.
Right. Something is so simple, but the fact of the matter is being present to whatever opportunities are in front of you to
Mm.
say, does this bring me joy? If it does, do it again.
Yeah. More of
Right?
that.
Yeah, I want more of that. Right?
Yeah.
If I have a time to sit and write something, and I'm sharing my thoughts or like, okay, that was great. I really, whether it's great writing or not, I'm not so sure. But
Right.
do I get a chance to share my thoughts? And then I get an email from someone saying, I really appreciated that, or that was really timely, or that was really helpful. Like,
Mm.
great, 5-star day.
Boom. Love
Yeah. Yeah. Drop the
Nice.
mic. Done.
it. Good stuff. Well, that's a good place to wrap it up here. How do people connect with you, Michael?
So you can find me on through my website. It's www.michaelf as in Frank KKAY.com. You can find my book, How to Craft Your Chapter X, on Amazon. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can email me. If you go onto the website, you can get my blogs, the announcements for podcasts or Zoom meetings. There's no cost to anybody. I do this because it's my passion to do it.
Nice.
And if you have questions, I'm more than happy to jump on a call, jump on a Zoom and have a conversation. And again, because we're all in this together.
Yeah.
We all share this planet. We all share this space, and we all go through stuff. And having someone walk next to you sometimes can help.
Yes. We need each other.
We do.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. Thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my joy.
And my takeaways here, just for men, because my mom, she retired and just went right into retirement. It's like ladies are good at it because they don't identify with their jobs. They identify with their family. So we're speaking to men today primarily. But whatever phase you're in with your profession, be careful that it doesn't become your identity. And I say this as someone who's identified with my job for much of my adult life. And it's especially common for Americans to do this. Be careful about that and start looking to make that mindset change and start making a plan for life outside of work. Even if you're mid-career, start working on things with family, friends, hobbies, and just connecting with other people. And as men, when we retire, money is typically not the biggest struggle. it really is just losing that identity and trying to find our place in that new world. So connect with Michael. Go check out his website. He's got a couple of books. He's also got a book called The Feel Rich Project. That looks interesting. So we'll put links to his website and also to his books up here. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please think about leaving us a review or sharing it with your friends. And if you have any feedback, we've got links there to send us a text, send us an email, give us the feedback. We really appreciate it. And until next time, we'll see you on the path.